Well, I hope that got your attention. More sly engagement tricks are to follow, but not before I explain why I'm talking about a training trip my Dark Ice team and I were on in 2020, just weeks before the global shutdown that put pay to so many of our carefully laid plans. Our task was to drill some holes in the ice large enough for a human being, and then hop in for a dip. First we found some ice, which wasn't overly taxing since there was a 100-mile wide subarctic lake on our doorstep in Canada's Northwest Territories. Then the snow must come off. It's not a wildly snowy part of the north, and so especially on the exposed lake, you're only likely to get a foot at most of hard-packed snow. Then came time for the ice, and we were testing an alternative to a petrol-powered ice auger. This one has a chunky lithium battery and a high-torque motor, plus a serious price tag. Still, it goes around and around in whiny-sounding circles with aplomb, and made light work of the lake ice with little in the way of downward pressure. Sea ice, lake ice and glacier ice aren't the same in density or composition, and so the resistance to drilling varies. But this freshwater ice formed at extremely cold temperatures, albeit without compression from above, makes for quite an adversary for any auger. It's not quite the widest gauge screw on the market, and so we'd need a fair few holes in order to get proper access to the water below. The water churned up the icy slush mixed with some snow, and so that mess needs to be cleared away. In fact, since the sub-30 temperatures refreeze wet snow and the icy fragments so quickly, if you pile it all up in one area, you could form a table, or seat, or windbreak structure that sets rock hard in a matter of minutes. Useful perhaps if you're doing day-long sampling work, or fishing, and the weather isn't on your side, but it certainly was on ours. A proper, calm, cold midwinter's day in continental northern Canada. We took turns to make a pattern of 6-inch holes and got a little ahead of ourselves with trying to get a view with the GoPro under the ice. Still lots of slush in there. We were still barely halfway through the first battery, and it was tragically the fledgling power packs I'd made that were the ones needing replacement as we documented this high adrenaline work. James did a couple more holes, and by the way, this is a friend of mine, Dan. Designer and photographer extraordinaire. I've known him since before my long-haul journey days, and he kindly offered to come out and see what all this cold weather nonsense was really about.
He wasn't pressing hard enough. Very easy.
James finished the real work, and then the other two of us, me first and then George, jumped in to neaten up the edges and take all of the glory and credit. A better chance now for the GoPro, and honestly I didn't expect for such a good result. I expected that the shallowness and the flow to the north arm of the lake nearby and the river there would churn it all up rather, not to mention all the chaos our auger had generated, but nothing of it. Clear enough at least to see some rather charming lakebed rocks, because floating rocks would certainly demand further investigation. No fish though. Anyhow, the GoPro didn't get knocked off or drowned, and it was time to get dressed. As the project coordinator, I was naturally guinea pig number one. Not that this was risky. This is a super expensive, not often used, purpose-made polar immersion suit that Hansen Protection put together for those who unwisely want to swim between ice flows. It's informally called the Ousland suit after its co-developer, here, who should get the credit. The limit to my accrued credit is to get inside it. Generally teams help each other in and to check fit, zips, ties and so on. You're fully clothed inside, and so it can be unwieldy in the cold and perhaps in the dark. During that strikingly quick display of suiting up, the surface of our waterhole had nonetheless begun to freeze over, but that was nothing the mighty shovel couldn't resolve.
What is it, minus 33 degrees?
Bit colder maybe?
Yeah. Maybe.
I would expertly talk you through the various stages of water ingress technique to profess some sort of... well, no, you just get in.
Can you stand? Sorry?
No, sorry, no.
No worry. No.
But seriously, you do get in slowly. You don't jump in lest water flood in should you go down too far, and you check for trips or snags around the ice itself.
I can't really get my elbows. I can't. There we are, I'm in. Oh, there's like nothing at my feet. Can you get out easily? Yeah.
Can you feel any...
It's exactly what I'm just trying to work out, if I can feel any dampness at all.
Naturally, this was the moment to test for leaks.
How cold is it?
Oh, it's quite warm.
Well, it is, yeah, it's more... the water will be right.
I'll see if I can feel underneath the ice. Oh yeah, I can feel underneath the ice. Oh, there's a puddle of it. No, there's not. Oh.
I fucking get in there. I've got to.
Oh. Hello, everyone's ankles.
That is just so funny.
My legs are now over there.
You can stay there a bit longer. Warm.
It's absolutely fine. What it does is it compresses. All the air was puffed out as I got in.
Right, yeah.
So there's no air at all in there now.
Yeah.
I would try and go under for a bit, but that's not going to work.
No, I just try and keep going down so we can check the leaks
So you've got about another 2-3 inches.
It's quite hard to stay stable forwards and backwards actually.
I wouldn't worry. I'd stick how you are. You're doing great.
The advice is, when actually swimming, to do a sort of side or backstroke. It keeps you dry and controls the urge for insulated boots to want to bob upwards and invert you.
This is what it's like in minus 35 degrees, but in water that's probably -1 or so. But you know what? It's not so bad in here. I feel very safe. I think these thumb holes are perhaps optimistic. So an immersion suit is going to be absolutely key on the Dark Ice project, because in between the ice flows we're going to have to get from ice to ice across water, and whether that's going to be very thin ice that breaks or clear open water, we can't really plan for. So we have these immersion suits that'll get us across nice and safely. Then once one person has swum across, we can then potentially raft together our sledges and get the others across without everyone having to swim. But it's super important that we have this practiced and down, because doing it in the light, even with these kind of temperatures, is all well and good, but imagine doing this in the dark.
Given that we were supposed to launch onto the ice just 6 months later and the pandemic began to impact about 2 weeks later, I'm finding it rather sad hearing my own optimism there. I generously refused to hog all of the fun, so eventually I was ordered out, and since the water covering the suit will soon ice up and can abrade or be sharp, it's worth an immediate snow roll, but granted, some areas you'd use this in wouldn't have lots of flat, soft snow. It's amazing how even premium grade nylon sounds like a crispy foil packet of snacks in temperatures this deeply cold. Once I slid out, it was James's turn.
Oh, please don't run out of batteries.
And George busied himself learning about the comically poor battery life of cold GoPro batteries without pre-warming or a power tether.
You're very smart, James.
Great.
More shovelling, which saves on gym membership fees, which are scandalous this far north, and James is in a manner that reminded me of that orange-clad South Park character that always died.
You put your arms in and you lose all your rudder.
Yeah.
You're very buoyant.
James didn't die, but instead did various aerobics exercises in the water before ensuring that our guest didn't miss out.
Oh, Dan, you've got to get in as well.
God, it's remarkably sedate. Just chilling out in an ice hole in northern Canada.
How cold is it?
Well, it's not actually cold at all. It's quite pleasant.
You can get your arms in.
Dan's brand of snow rolls differed from ours, but included a finesse that ours lacked. Then, there's always one, eh?
One wasn't enough. Delicious. I'm out of here.
The ice auger made its feelings known, and as the sun began to set mid-afternoon, we packed up and made plans for some practice that night for skills in the dark, tent routine and so on. But first, we left James to try and catch supper for the team. Rumour has it he's still there trying to fish. Not a giver-upper is James. Bye.